thing I don't think I do enough, and I don't think enough people do this, period, is like, we don't really thank our predecessors. Like, we don't wake up in the morning and say, thank you to all of our family that came before us. Thank you for all the ancestors. Thank you for all the teachers. Thank you for the elders. Thank you for the people that came in and just gave us the game. Because, like, I'm not who I am without the people who've helped build me, and I don't think we pay enough homage to that. You know what I mean? Waking up every day and being blessed just to know certain people and to know certain information that came down the line from people way before us, Anyway, and so I was thinking today about force, which is interesting. That just kind of came up in a meditation, though. And I was thinking about how, like, do we use force to change our life? Do we use force to move forward? Or are we the force that actually moves forward? Is it the consciousness that's the force? Because I broke it down, I'm thinking, like, a seed has to have force in order to break soil, right? So what are we doing breaking the grounds of our mind, our mental capacity, Do we ask for that inner seeding, and then that consciousness, that force is what actually promotes our evolution? Is that what's moving us forward? Because we don't really have an option. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna move forward. It's just, how long is it gonna take us to surrender to that force? And it brought me to, like, thinking about loving discipline as well, because I think anytime we start projects, anytime we start renovation, as far as our own body and our own home goes, that renovation and that work is all through being able to surrender and get out of our own way. And I never used to know what that meant. Like, how do I get out of my own way? Because I used to think I was in my own way all the time. Like, fuck, I gotta get out of my own goddamn way. But how do we even go about doing that? How do we get out of our own way? And what does that even mean? It means that our ego, which, depending on how we define the ego, but we're going to say that the ego is the part of us that's separate from God. The ego is the part of us that's not loving thought all of the time. It's not the thought that's infusing every moment with love. It's the opposite. It's the illusion. So the ego is the part of us that thinks it knows, okay? And it wants to drive the car. It thinks that God is supposed to be a co-pilot, and that just doesn't work like that, And so getting out of our own way is actually part of the surrender, which is that no matter what happens in my life, what my goal is to infuse my perspective with love. So when I have loving thought, I'm actually playing out the will of God, which allows my destiny to unfold, right? And so it's like, because naturally, what do we want to do as human beings and souls? Naturally, we want to grow. Naturally, we want to evolve into perfection, into our own perfection, which is the perfection of all. But we get in our own way. And that is the part of us that not necessarily needs to die, but needs to be aligned in order to go forward. And so I was just thinking about that today in my own space, because this time, like, over the past few days, it's been feeling like a super recharge for me. I ain't been doing much, but, like, just being in the books and listening to certain YouTubes and certain speakers, being inspired. And one of the speakers, she said today, I thought was cool. She was like, I don't ever have a speech planned, because that's how I feel. I don't come on here with I just have like a direction, and then I just let it go. And she was like, really, it's like the riffs on in jazz training. She's like, I just study the riffs, and then when I go to speak, basically it's just a combination of the riffs. She's like, I'm just creating music as I'm speaking. And I feel like that with any creative endeavor that we take on, that we study the craft. So if I'm studying the thought processes that bring me inner power and inner peace, that when I go to speak, all I'm doing is having the combination of those together, and it comes out as as communication, as words. But it's, something's on fire. Sorry, there's a fire in front of me. Shit. Anyway, so I was speaking to somebody earlier about the body as well, because they was talking about how they lost like 100 pounds. And I just think it's so amazing how physically our bodies are so in tune with our mind, and that I feel like the more that we become in acceptance of all things, that our body actually, it shapes with that mindset. In you know, because I've always had an issue, like, not always an issue, but I feel like when we put the body under stress, even when we're trying to heal it, right? Even when we're trying to heal our body, we have to realize there's a totality going on here. We don't just heal the body. We're also healing the emotional body. We're also healing the mental body. And it's all done through the spiritual process. And so what I mean by that is, spiritually, what we're doing is taking on the project. The physical body is what we see change, but it's also our thought process that changes, and the emotional body benefits off of it, because in order to do any of these things, we need loving discipline. And loving discipline, just like it sounds, is a loving direction, you know, to go into love, essentially, to heal ourselves. And I was speaking to him about, you know, he wanted to know about food and stuff. And I think food is medicine. I mean, I agree with that in totality. But at the same time, what I've found in the place that I'm at right now is, like, I really think fasting is probably number one. But I also think that, like, not having stress, like being able to rest. Because sometimes we stress trying to heal. And that's the very thing that's going to cause the dis-ease in the first place, is the stress. Stress is number one. And you think about how much stress our body's under every day with all of the actions that we complete when we're out in the world, you know? And it's like, sometimes it's hard, because when we're in environments that support peace and support love, it's easier to heal. But we have to go out in the world. And so it's like there's a balance and a strength that comes with exercising our peace out in the world, you know? And for a long time, I was a hermit. Like, I didn't want to come up out of the shell. I was like, man, I didn't even want to talk to nobody for a long time. But I think sometimes we have to retreat into our own darknesses and we have to really assess our own body. We have to assess our own perceptions, our own thoughts. Not because they're wrong or right, but because they need to be looked at with critical thinking. You know, they need to be looked at in a way of, does this bring me peace? Does this bring me power? Can I move forward with these thought processes? And are they serving everybody around me? Because that's a really big one too. Is that, like, when we think of love and we think of care, we have to think about all the others that are surrounding us. So it's not just my love and my care, but when it's truth, it's going to affect everybody around me in a very powerful way. It's going to empower them. You know, that's what love does. And I read something today that was cool. It said that love isn't even love unless it's unconditional. And how powerful is that? Love isn't love unless it's unconditional. So now we have a whole new practice we're undertaking, unconditional love. And how hard is that when we get into a relationship? You know what I'm saying? Because we want things our way. We want the other people to love us the way that we love them. But that's not how the shit works. What we're receiving from giving is not expectation. I can't expect you to give me back love if I've given you what I perceived as love, because it wasn't love in the first place if I had expectation, because that made it not conditional, not unconditional, in a sense, you know? And I had to really think about that in my own life with my own family members, you know? But not only that, but within romantic and love interests too. Because it's like the giving, like, if we're gonna love unconditionally, like, let's break that down. What is unconditional love? It's love without conditions. So if I realize that in giving of pure love, if I am giving to serve, let's say serve, because when you serve, you don't have an expectation. You know what I'm saying? You're serving. It's like the form of giving that is receiving, serving. So if I'm serving you, I have the intention to bring you comfort. You know what I mean? Because I'm at your service. You know? I have a requirement in my own mind that, hey, if I'm making you feel the utmost best and beautiful that you can possibly feel, that automatically I'm already receiving just through that type of giving, because I'm giving of myself, and because I'm reaffirming it within myself. You know what I mean? I'm reaffirming that I have that love to give, which in turn gives to me. It's just like the physical body, and I don't think we think about it like that. Like, if you're buff right now, okay, and you just stop working out, what happens? The muscles go south. They deflate, they can turn into fat. They're not kept up. There's a maintenance to thought process, just like there's a maintenance to the body. And the main reason I even get on here and talk, I don't even care if anybody listens. Honestly, this shit is for me to reaffirm and flex the muscle of positive thinking, of positive thought. And then hopefully the cuppeth overfloweth and people can get something from it, you know, so their cuppeth can overfloweth too. Because that's what we out here doing. If we're going to change any type of culture, we have to reintroduce our own thought processes into the culture, because when you introduce an idea, it strengthens that idea. The more people that hear the idea, hear the concept, they don't even have to accept it, but it still strengthens the idea because now it's been introduced. You know what I'm saying? It's been considered. And anything considered, automatically it breaks through the conscious. It's a collective conscious. So this is why when certain people speak, there be so many synchronicities in life. Because you're like, damn, I was just thinking about that too. Wow, you was on point with what I was saying. I've had that same thought. Of course you did. Of course, all of these things is in tune. We really tune. If I'm on a radio station and you tune in to me, you just tuned into my radio station, which is also your radio station, it's really not mine or yours. It's just a radio station that we both tuned in on. So of course, our minds would be linked up. Our minds would share thought. It's the same thing when you share conversation with somebody. You're actually sharing a piece of your mind. You know what I mean? And that's, to me, I always thought like, oh, let me protect my thoughts. Let me protect my creative ideas. Let me protect these things so nobody can steal them. But that's not even the right type of thinking, because if I'm not sharing my creative process, I'm not strengthening my creative process, because you might have something to add to it. And even if you want to steal it, it ain't gonna have the same energy that it has with me. So I should be able to give it to you with no problem. Because if I'm benefiting you, I'm benefiting myself. This is like a total, it's a total reconstruction of how we've been taught, and how we think about gaining, how we think about abundance, how we think about money, all of these things that we want. What do we do when we want? We're just affirming what we didn't have yesterday. That's all that is. Really, wanting has an idea of the past linked to it, if you think about it, right? Because it's like, oh, I want this. Well, at some point I didn't have it, which was probably the moment before I even knew I wanted it. I recognized that I didn't have it, confirming that I don't have it, confirming that I'm in lack of it. So the very wanting of it ain't gonna give it to me. You know? It's like, I don't know, it's like we kind of had to get to a point, and maybe this is just me, like, I like being at the point where I don't want for nothing, and that, like, it's like certain things you know you'll have, and it's a different feeling than wanting, if you know what I mean. Like I just feel certain things that would come to me. But I don't have like, my timing and God's timing are two totally different things. I'm not really worried about it. You know what I mean? It's going to come when it's going to come. And whenever the resources come, then the ideas that come with those resources also come, because together they're going to make a creative endeavor. Because I think that's how God really moves. It's like when it's time to rest and it's time to go inward, we go in order to correct a perception that no longer works for the moment that's ahead of us, for the creative endeavors that are ahead of us. Our thought process right now is outdated. So the resting period, the blackout period, the going into a cave and hiding, metaphorically or for real, is really a period of time where we're correcting perception so that in our next moments, we'll have the right tools to move forward. We'll have the right, correct perceptions for that moment to move forward, you know? And that's such a beautiful thing, but it takes a lot of compassion. It takes a lot of empathy. It takes a lot of forgiveness of self, of others, you know? It takes a lot of these things that we might not have cultivated in a different environment or a different mind space. But we get put in these mind spaces to strengthen these concepts that we can use outside of ourselves, that can strengthen and empower others, you know? So the other day I was speaking about racism, because I think it's a topic that I think everything got to be put out on the table at this point. I really do. I don't think people should scare away from any topics, no matter how crazy they sound. I think people just need to speak their mind and not think about how other people, it's like however you receive me is how you're going to receive me. But that don't got nothing to do with me if I'm speaking my truth, you know? And not so much that I'm trying to pose a solution here, but that we bring light into concepts that have been dark for so long, you know? And that we infuse forgiveness within ourselves and others in order to bring these topics to light, you know? Because it's like, it's a lot of pain and shame surrounding a lot of the problems in the world, but we don't look at the pain and the shame necessarily, you know what I mean? We feel the pain, we feel the guilt, we feel the shame that might not even be ours to begin with because it came down the line, generational. But here we are becoming aware. So here we are becoming aware of our feelings. And some of these feelings that we identify with aren't even ours. But yet we have the responsibility to heal them because we're going to lead by example. And so if I know things and that I know that I'm malleable and that I'm open and that I can receive change, that I've actually been selected as a soul for a bigger purpose than myself, because now I'm looking at everything that came before me and I'm taking responsibility for things that other people aren't even willing to take responsibility for, because I know fear to be an illusion. And so let me stand in that truth and let me take on all the pain and all the shame and all the fear, because I know it not to be real, but I have to embody that truth in order to teach it, because my speech ain't gonna do it. It's not gonna do it. It sounds good, but it ain't gonna do it. I have to embody it. You know what I'm saying? I have to walk around with it. I have to be a living, walking, breathing example of what the interceding of God's will, which is loving thought, can do for a human being. And that's what I would like to see in the culture, because I know that to be progression. I know that to be evolution. And I know that to be beneficial to me and everybody else around me. So when we speak of racism and we speak of these social problems of the world, are we considering it in a way of, is it going to benefit me and everybody else around me? Because if I'm still subscribing to the fact that most of the culture believes in separation, most people think that this is just their own personal fucking problem, and that, hey, I don't have nothing to do with that over there. If I play into that, I'm playing the wrong game. I had to literally bet on myself here. And that's what we need to do. But it's gonna be each one teach one. There's not gonna be no superhero out here. There ain't gonna be no savior. There's no more room for people who are gonna take a stance like that, because people will get knocked off out here. So yeah, this is an underground revolution. And it's beautiful because we have a medium to do so. And when we go out in the world, that's also our medium as well. We're creating art every day, and your life is a canvas. Your emotions are the colors. You know what I'm saying? Paint this shit. Make the most beautiful picture that you can conceive. Because the most beautiful picture that you can conceive can only get more beautiful in time. And I know time isn't real, but time helps us learn lessons. And the more lessons we learn and the more concepts we can accept, the more that we can surrender to life, the more that life opens up for us. And that we're not so attached to how things should look or how things should be or what we want and don't want. We're just open to knowing that when we show up, when we align with the right thought process, when we give it up, you know, that's us subscribing to the new evolution and the new culture, the new love and the new life. And it's not new, it's an ancient concept. But for some reason, everybody got amnesia. And I had it at one point too. And I had to be honest with myself. Because I thought today, man, I know so many people that are in pain right now. I know people who are on their deathbed right now, struggling for their life. And it's crazy to me because I think to myself, how did I get saved? You know what I'm saying? How did I fall into fasting and taking care of my body? How did I fall into facing my own darkness? How did I fall into even being able to think that I could rearrange my thought process? How did I get here? And then there's people my age and there's people older and there's people younger who haven't had that move in that direction yet. Because if you haven't, oh, there it goes. I got paused. To me, if you're still out here, like, and I don't even want to say it like this because I know that consciousness oversees everything, but when we haven't been raised to that level yet, that, yeah, the food affects us, the chemicals that we're breathing affect us, these harmful things affect us. So what can we do to benefit us on a physical level? You know what I mean? Otherwise, we're going to be on antidepressants and we're going to be laid out somewhere fucked up from the medical association. And who's really giving us a chance? Because people are out here dying from shit they didn't die from 50 years ago. You know what I mean? So either you take responsibility for yourself and your body, or you're looking at being in a hospital bed under bright ass fluorescent lights for being some type of science experiment. Because I'm like, they don't want to even give you no type of natural healing. And especially if you ain't got no damn money and you want some cheap insurance. You gonna go in there and be a straight up science experiment. And it's not nobody's fault because this is the medical association. This is what they're teaching. But I just feel like we're in a time where it's like, if you have any inclination to take control of your own health, to research what the mother has given us to heal, if you have any inclination to that, you know what I'm saying? I need you to agree that those thoughts didn't come out of nowhere and that they're for you and that you need to surrender to that process. And that's not me telling you what to do. But I will say that from personal experience, yeah, it was the hardest thing I had to do, but it had the greatest benefit to it. Because now, anytime I get sick, anytime I have an issue, I already know what to do. And it doesn't have to involve paying some doctor to give me some pill. You know? It involves me understanding that my lymphatic system, which is the system that gets rid of the sewage, is probably backed up somewhere. And so that, hey, I should probably not be eating a bunch of bullshit that's gonna clog me up. That I should maybe do some light exercise so that my sweat glands can help get rid of the poisons. And maybe some breathing exercises because I talk too fast. No, for real though. Like breathing, look, everybody, there's 9 people listening to me right now. Just take a deep breath. Just 5 conscious breaths in a row help anxiety tremendously. And that is the fucking truth. Because we don't consciously breathe. We breathe because our heart is beating and we need oxygen to be carried through that blood to give us the energy throughout the cellular body. But think about when we put our mind to it. Think about when we put intention to anything. Do you know what intention does? It infuses light into things. Especially, well, not all intention. If people have bad intention, you can infuse the darkness too. But with good intention, with loving light intention, everything that you do benefits. As a hairstylist, because people used to come in, this is real. This is probably going to interest more girls than it will guys, but people would come in and be like, my hair is not growing. And you'll just see their hair was just tore up. And I'm like, okay. And the first thing I do, hand them a brush. Show me how you brush your hair. Everybody who got fucked up hair, brush they shit like this. Like, no. See, this is your issue. I need you to brush it with loving intention. When you eat, I need you to taste your food. I need you to chew it. I need you to swallow it and enjoy it. Everything needs to be given this intention, because we're paying attention when we're giving it attention, right? That's how we make things more beautiful. You want a green thumb? Touch a plant like you love it. Talk to it. This works with everything. It's literally energy. You see when if you ever seen those experiments where people are doing sound energy and they have the sand on the little things and they put certain vibrations. They make beautiful patterns and they make shitty ones. They do it with water too. So in my mind, okay, everything's alive. Everything is alive. I'm not going to sit here and play like this car isn't alive. This car is alive. I talk to it when I get in here. I tell it, thank you for delivering me safely. Like, I'm not playing around. I don't think we should. And how fun is it to act like a kid and pretend? Because we lost that part of us at some age where we got too fucking serious. But it wasn't our fault. Our creativity was robbed from us when we went to public school. Here, fit in this box. Just for you. No, I don't want to go in there. It's not safe. So it's okay to play, and it's okay to think things are alive, because they are, and we can all treat everything like that, because then we can go around and make everything pretty, and why wouldn't we want to do that, you know? It's a great thing. All right, I'm done. That was a lot. I hope everybody has a great day. How about that? How about breathing consciously, saying thank you to the ancestors, saying thank you to those people who came before us that gave us the game and loved us right. Amen.